So Phil, you've been in Iraq for a little bit. How was that?
Yep. Well, it was amazing. I mean, we met some incredible people over there, and it was very interesting. It was very hot, and it was an experience that I don't think I'll ever forget.
Simon Wright was there, and Carlos Cavazos and Jolyn Turner.
Correct.
How long you guys been playing together?
Well, Simon hasn't been in the band. I mean, Simon was just filling in for Vinny a piece. Vinny had some obligations with Ronnie Dio with Heaven and Hell. He's been playing with Heaven and Hell for a while, so he was not going to be able to do this. So Simon filled in, and as Simon plays with Ronnie Dio in his own band, it was a perfect opportunity.
So you played mostly for the soldiers, the American soldiers in Iraq?
Actually, multinational forces, yeah. So Americans, Australians, Danish, Dutch, British, lots of different people.
Sure, the people like that to see the big boys of rock and roll play.
Yeah, it was, and on top of which we went to some very remote locations. They asked us where we would want to go, and we said, well, we just want to go where nobody else goes, because we want to be able to take this show to everybody. So we went into places in the depths of Baghdad. We were in Sadr City. We were in Fallujah. I mean, we were in the heaviest places, and no one has ever been there before. At least no band.
When you coming to Canada to tour?
Not sure. I mean, we're starting to get this whole schedule going. It's been very difficult because we've had to try to schedule around everybody's work. Everyone in this band has, other projects. And I think the hardest thing that happens when you put a band like this together is that, nobody wants to let go of what else they're doing until it's established that this kind of band has legs, and it's able to carry itself. So our biggest challenge has been scheduling. Vinny obviously plays with Heaven and Hell. Carlos has a couple of other, things. He's playing with Rat now, so he's doing a few shows with them, although he's not like a member of the band. He's just helping them out for shows. Joe has a lot of solo stuff that he does. And I have, between me doing my solo stuff and me doing other work, I do a lot of mixing work. Also, I have a lot of work with the Recording Academy. I'm on the board of the Grammys, so that takes up a lot of time. So between all of us, we have to try to find a schedule, the ability to do shows. And it's very frustrating for our agent.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. But I hope we will be able to do so soon. I mean, we're going to South America at the end of this year. We're going to be doing a festival in Britain next year. We're going to be doing shows around Europe next year. We're trying to schedule some stuff, hopefully before the end of the year here, but we'll see how that works out. We had some shows booked with Warrant, but Warrant basically disbanded in the meantime, so that fell through.
What do you think of Jake Lee as a person, and when's the last time you contacted him?
I haven't spoken. I don't think anyone really spoke to Jake after the day he was asked to leave Ozzy's band. I never spoke to him after that. I said to you when I first joined that I was sharing an apartment with him, and that was probably the only attempt I've really made to try to get close to Jake. Jake's a very strange guy. He doesn't really talk to anybody. He doesn't really socialize with anybody. I sort of took it upon myself and said, well, yeah, I'll share an apartment with Jake because we have to share it with somebody. So I could have shared it with Randy. Randy and I were best friends. But I did, but I just really never spent much time talking to him. When we traveled and we were on the road, he never really participated in conversations. Or, when we went out at night, he very rarely come out with us. I don't know. I'm not like a big,
So Jakey Lee would just stay in his hotel room, basically?
He would stay in his hotel room. He would stay up all night and sleep all day, but he wasn't doing anything. He was just staying up. I mean, he was strange. When you get on the bus, there was only 4 or 5 people on that bus, and he would sit in the corner and with his glasses on and wouldn't really ever talk to anybody. And eventually, everybody just learned to kind of leave him alone. He didn't want to be talked to, and we had our own idea of a good time. And he was, I don't really know too much about him. I spent a lot of time in a band with him, but I didn't really ever get to know him too well. There were a couple of occasions where we went out, and he was kind of cool, but then, the next day, he back to his old self. Towards the end of the band, his behavior was really strange. We were rehearsing in Los Angeles to come up with new songs for an album after The Ultimate Sin, and Jake just wouldn't show up. I mean, sometimes he'd show up very, very late. In the evening, I remember he would come in at around 6 or 7 o'clock, and we'd been there since, Ozzy would call rehearsals at 12 or 1 o'clock. And so we're getting ready to go. And this continued for some time, and I think Ozzy and Sharon and he had some talks. And one day, Sharon called us up and she said, I want you to go to rehearsals at 12 or 1 o'clock or whatever it was. And if Jake is not there by 2 o'clock, I want you to go home. And we said, okay. So we went in, and he hadn't showed up at 2 o'clock, so Sharon asked us to do. We went home. And then Sharon called us in the home and said, okay, I want you guys to come down to the hotel we're staying at. And I want you to sit in the hotel with Ozzy. And I am going to be meeting with Jake at a restaurant around the corner, and we're going to ask him to leave the band. And that was the beginning and end of it. After he left the band, we never saw him again. I heard somehow he thought that maybe I was responsible, or Randy was responsible, or somebody else in the band was responsible for what happened, but that wasn't the case. We didn't have that much power in that band. I mean, the whole band, if you know Sharon Osbourne, you know that she runs everything. And so we had nothing to do with it. In fact, I think we made a call to Jake that morning, and we said, hey, listen, I don't know what's going on, but for some reason we told him we were told to leave by 2 o'clock if he hadn't showed up. And his response to it is, he got very angry and he said, you know what, I'll show up when I show up, and you guys do whatever you want to do. It's not your business. And I said, okay, fair enough. And then we really never spoke to him after that. He was in bands with people I know. Really crossed paths. Yeah, Badlands. He was with Eric Singh. Eric's a good friend of mine. But and I don't know what happened to him eventually. Randy and I eventually started the big long search to find another guitar player, and as you know by now, we found it in Zakk. And Zakk went on to become a huge megastar.
So you got to play with Zakk lots of times? Yeah,
we found him. We discovered him. We went through 400 tapes of guitar players.
And what was the decision that you said, all right, Zakk Wylde's our boy here?
Actually, it was pretty interesting. We started off by asking people to send in packages, and we would go through the cassettes, and then we realized that the cassettes were taking so long we couldn't tell them apart. We started to look, of course, people had to have a certain look. I mean, that sort of went without saying. I hope nobody takes offense at that, but they were definitely looking for somebody who looked a certain way.
Right.
So we would look at the photographs and we would sift through those. Then we would listen to the cassettes, and if we thought that they were good, we'd put them onto a short list. And then the short list people were gradually invited to come and play with us and to come to an audition. And during the audition, we would ask them to learn 3 songs and to play those 3 songs. And based upon that, they would go to another short list. And gradually, we got it down to less than 10 people. At that time, Ozzy came down to the rehearsals, and because they only played with Randy and myself. And when the very short list, they came down to play in front of Ozzy with us. And some of those guys were pretty good, and one guy was just outstanding, and had just incredible amounts of confidence, and was just really fun. And that was Zakk. And I think Ozzy picked up on that, and he pretty much made up his mind. At that point, all the other guitar players were very capable, but Zakk was the guy who had that.
Any other people that we know out of that clique, 10 people?
There were some people that we thought were good. Mitch Perry was a great guitar player, but Mitch, in his infinite wisdom, decided to explain to Sharon Osbourne that he had an alcohol problem, so she immediately threw him out, and that was the end of that. Who else? Joe Holmes was second, but years later he ended up playing with Ozzy, because they didn't forget that he was very, very good. Who else was on there? Believe it or not, Amir Durack was on there. In Rough Cut, Amir Durack, who then went, after Rough Cut, went to play with Ozzy. And he was on that short list. You know, so that was pretty much, you know, there was a couple of other guys. There was a guy from Sweden who didn't really work out. But Ozzy took a look at them, and, you know, funnily enough, I think Zakk's guitar sound wasn't really together as it could have been. And there was a period right after where we went through a discovery thing with him where he was trying out all different guitars and different amps and different effects, trying to find his own unique sound, you know? And eventually he found it, and typically he found it by going back to basics. He went back to a Les Paul, he went back to a Marshall. You know, that time a lot of guitar players were using Charvels and Jacksons and Kramers and this and that and the other. And, you know, he went one step backwards and you know, brought out a Les Paul. And I dare say to this day he's probably been more than responsible for the success of, you know, the resurgence of old Gibsons and Les Pauls, and now everybody wants to use Les Pauls again, you know?
So what do you recall what guitar he'd be playing at that audition?
Oh.
Would he be playing a Gibson?
I think he actually did play a Les Paul at that audition as well. You know, it just, he came in and, you know, he literally plugged it into an amp, and that's all he did. And a lot of guys at that time were from GIT. They came down with racks of equipment, and they came down with roadies, and they set up all kinds of bells and whistles. And, you know, when it came down to playing, they weren't as good as Zakk. Zakk was really great. I mean, you could tell. You knew straight away. You know, yes. He had a lot of confidence.
I'm sure he had to get the job, and he's still there, you know, 20 years later. Yeah.
His personality's changed a lot from being kind of happy-go-lucky kind of, you know, laugh-a-minute kind of guy to being a serious, you know, we call him He-Man. He's like a sort of biker with his chains and all that shit, you know. But I mean, I remember when he joined the band, he hadn't been playing for about 3 years, you know that? Yeah, he hadn't been playing guitar for very long at all.
When he joined Ozzy.
Yeah. So we could see how talented he was, because he just knew. I mean, he was playing like the guy had been playing for 23 years, you know. But I don't think he was even 23 years old. He was about, you know, 21 or something, wasn't he? 22.
With Randy Castillo.
My relationship with Randy was very, very close. I mean, we were closer. I could say we were closer than my own brothers, you know. You know, I have two brothers. I was closer with Randy than I was with them. And we were always really close. You know, Randy was a guy I was best friends with before we played in Ozzy together. We'd known each other already about 4 years or so. We were really tight. Being in the band with Randy was like being in an unbelievable opportunity, an experience, an incredible, huge band. We were the biggest band in America in the mid-'80s there for a while. With your best friends. I mean, how much better could it get? You know, we had a really good time together. And after I left the band, you know, we had our differences. I mean, I think that to this day, to the end of his life, Randy thought I was silly to leave the band. You know, but I thought he was silly to stay in the band. And so we argued about that a little bit from time to time. But at the end of the day, it was like, you know, we all respected our decisions and our careers and what have you. I like to think that he got a bad deal from Ozzy and Sharon. I think he thinks that too. You know, I have a letter that he wrote to me just before he died. He really poured his heart out about a lot of things, and I don't think he was real happy with the way he was treated by them. You know, it was really sad when he got sick. He got ill and he got better again, and we all thought he was going to get better. But, you know, Randy lived to drum. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to play drums, and he felt he was going to play drums again. And one day, he was told that he was not going to. And he was not going to be part of the Ozzy band anymore. And I think he just gave up the ghost. And all of a sudden, one day, he literally took he told me that, he took a downturn. I guess he just didn't want to be around anymore. And it was just a very short period of time after that he got ill and he passed away. I'm talking like 2-3 weeks, you know? So it was real sad. to meet him? Did you ever get to meet him?
I never met Randy Castillo, no.
Yeah, well, he was a real cool guy. But I don't think that he had a bad word to say about anybody. And to this day, I don't think I've ever met anybody who didn't like him. So, that says a lot.
Yeah, he looked like a very likable guy.
Yeah. Me, on the other hand, is a different story.
Have you ever seen some unreleased Randy Rhoads film that we know that would exist?
Honestly not. I haven't. I'm sure there is some stuff out there. I mean, the best person to ask for that would probably be Rudy Sarzo. Rudy and Randy were very close, and Rudy was a very close friend of his outside of the band, and he would know about just about anything that's out there. Yeah, then there probably isn't, because I don't think Rudy has anything to hide from anybody. I never got too much. It's funny, in the RB camp, nobody really talks too much about Randy Rhoads. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of, sensitive feelings about the subject, and so, it was never something that was really discussed too much. That's why I would say one of his best friends might be a better source to find out,
So, where are you calling from tonight?
I was out at a couple of meetings. I have to shoot back out again. I headed back home for a moment, and then I've got to take off again. I do a lot of film work. I just mix the feature film, and I'm meeting with a couple of film mixers to discuss some future projects. I've always been very active in the studio, so film mixing is somewhere I'd like to put a lot more of my energy into. I enjoy it a lot. Between that and writing and everything else that I do, I kind of keep pretty busy. We have a bunch of things coming up. I also head the advocacy committee at the Grammys, which deals with, reporting legal issues and things that are discussed in Congress as how they change the royalties for our business. So that takes up a lot of time. I think I mentioned that. So, there's a bunch of preparation I have to do for a speech that I have to give on our next meeting. I keep busy.
You're a very busy person.
Yeah, exactly. But, in this business, that's what you have to do. Going for a new record and,
And you keep happy?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm pretty much happy with the way things are going, and, I get to work with a lot of very talented people, and, I'm going to do some writing with Dave Page next month. That's something I'm looking forward to. I'm trying to get a few ideas ready, and I do writing with the most diverse people. I just wrote a song with Bob Carpenter from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band on their new record, so I do stuff that's very different. I've always liked that. And maybe that's the reason I left Ozzy as well. I wanted to explore different types of music, not just the one type of music. Although I love rock. Rock is my, classic rock is my favorite type of music.
Yeah, you were made to rock. Never forget that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what I like to do is I like to experiment with different things. I said one of our dogs is a Nova Scotia duck tolling retriever, the breed. Have you ever heard of those?
I never heard that in my life.
Oh, okay.
They must have come from Nova Scotia.
Yeah, it looks like a smallest retriever. They're only about 35 pounds.
Huh.
It looks like a miniature version of a retriever, and they're bred from Nova Scotia.
You got the Nova Scotian dogs there.
That's right. You can look on the internet, you see them, they're very cute. Anyway, alright, thanks very much, Jason, and I'll get this out in the mail to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.